I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. What were you saying about your plans?
I've landed another freelance job. It starts as soon as we finish this project. And this time it's outside television.
Oh, what will you be doing?
I'll be writing a seminar and training materials for private company on how to organize your time.
Is this the same person that filed her yogurt under Y in my favorite interview in the refrigerator?
Yes, it is. Only I hope I've improved, at least on paper. Well, now I'll have to prove it.
Oh, I'm sure you will, Jenny. Now, listen, I have something I have to discuss with you before Cassie arrives.
So what do we have to keep from Cassie?
Yeah, why the secrecy, Gwen?
Well, I want to assign the writing of the concept paper for the last program in this series to Cassie.
You want her to create and organize all the material for the program? That's a big assignment.
It won't be easy to summarize this whole series.
Well, I'm not as interested in a summary as I am in focusing on personal growth, the maturity that comes from developing writing skills. You two picked up your writing skills and your maturity some time ago. If I asked you to write this program, you could easily write about skills and personal growth. But if Cassie writes it, it'll come from her own recent growth.
Okay, but why the hesitation?
Yeah, why not just tell her?
My concern is whether or not Cassie has developed the ability to take on a whole program without feeling overwhelmed by it all.
Cassie, if you write, you're a writer. Not a real one like the three of you. You mean you're not a professional writer, but that's not the same thing as being real. Hey, Cassie. What's the matter? It's more than just this introduction, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just not working out, Jenny. That's what's the matter.
Whatever gave you that idea?
Well, it's obvious. I mean, I'm not clever with words like Norm. I can't come up with ideas like you. And Gwen has forgotten more than I will ever know. I guess I'm really just a drag on you guys.
Oh, that's not true. Cassie, you need to get this thing in perspective. I mean, when the three of us were your age, we were just...
You were way ahead of me. See, it's not just a matter of age, Jenny. Writing is a knack. Either you have it or you don't.
Writing is a craft that can be learned. That's what you're doing now. And that's what this telecourse is all about. You may not be a midnight novelist like Norm, but you can learn to write clear, interesting prose.
Don't think I haven't tried. I would give my eye teeth just to hear Norm say just once, I couldn't have put it better. Guess I'm just not in the same league.
You're not in competition with Norm, only with yourself. How you improve from day to day, that's the only true competition.
Jenny, how can I contribute to a course on how to write when I don't even know how myself?
It's an advantage. Makes you aware of things the rest of us just take for granted. Cassie, I think you're doing what a lot of student writers do.
What's that?
You're letting writing intimidate you.
It is intimidating. Sometimes I feel like I just can't do it.
Well, who doesn't sometimes? But you've got to hang in there.
I don't think so, Jenny. I really think this project would be better off without me.
Hey, what are you talking about? Are you thinking of quitting?
Yeah. I was going to give myself until Friday when the project was due to make up my mind.
I wonder what you two think about putting this kind of pressure on Cassie.
Oh, I don't think she'll be threatened by it at all. She's been rising to challenges all along.
And as an expert challenger, I agree.
Expert?
Sure, I've put a lot of pressure on Cassie since the first day, but she's a tough one. I mean, she took it all.
And gave it back, too. She taught us all a few things.
It's a handout for prospective students, you know, questions and answers about the telecourse. And the first question, the one I'm having trouble with, is who is the telecourse for?
Well, what's the answer, Kurt?
Okay, this telecourse is for anyone who wants to perfect his or her composition skills, for anyone who wants college credit in freshman English. It's for people who are starting their careers, for people in mid-career, or those at the height of their professions.
Let me see that.
Sure.
Okay.
Needs work, huh?
Well, you've got the right idea. You've sorted prospective students into groups, but your categories are... Well, what I mean is, not everybody's going to take this course because of their careers.
Well, the first time I wrote it, Gwen said it was too broad. Now you say it's too narrow. What am I supposed to do?
Well, we were just going over how to classify, and one of the things Norm was saying is that it's pointless to classify without a point.
Uh-huh.
Who are you writing for? Who's going to read this?
Well, people that want to or need to take a basic English course, but for one reason or another are considering taking it as a telecourse.
That's your audience, not Gwen or Norm or Jenny or me.
Yes, our resident student has been a pretty good teacher.
Good morning. Hi, Cass. How's it going today?
Fine.
Oh, listen, Jenny, did you get that freelance job?
Yes, it starts in a couple of weeks. How are you? Are you feeling okay?
Oh, if you mean why am I late? Well, I had to register for school this semester, and thanks to this telecourse, I'm returning full-time to get my degree.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
Well, that's fine, Cassie, but are you up to the big question?
The big question.
Yeah, the big question. Would you like a cup of coffee?
Sure, thanks. That was the big question?
No, Cassie, I have the big question today. How would you like to be in charge of writing the concept paper for this last program?
Okay, sure. I would like to do that. When do you need it?
Okay, when do you need it? That's all you have to say?
Well, I think I know the audience. Is there anything special I need to know about the purpose for this final program?
Well, the purpose is to wrap up the whole series and to deal with the personal growth that comes with developing writing skills in the course.
Well, that seems pretty broad.
It is, but specifically we need to emphasize that the writing skills that you learn in this course can be transferred to other college courses and to life outside the college.
Well, that helps. You know, I'm at the pre-writing stage on this one already.
You are?
Some thoughts about what the telecourse has taught me came to me as I was writing in my journal. Might turn out to be a pretty handy little notebook after all.
As I was writing in my journal.
Okay, Norm. Jenny, you and Norm will help me and give me some criticisms when I'm ready to revise.
Oh, of course.
Sure we will.
Good. And Gwen, thank you for the vote of confidence.
We need help getting these proposals together. So, guys, look, we got a new project. and we need you to help us get this project
Please,
report through.
quiet! It sounds as if the world is coming to an
The
end.
world is coming to an end. At least this world is.
Yeah, this is no joke. I mean, you guys are finished with your work on this project. You're going to move on. But Fred and I, we're full-time employees with this production company, and we have a new project in the proposal stage.
Yeah, Kurt has to write a marketing plan, and I have to convince them in writing that the art department can handle this big a project.
Well, what is the project?
It's a series on art history and art appreciation.
Hey, it's a big challenge.
Sounds great, and right up your professional alleys. What's the problem?
But didn't you hear? We have to write proposals, and we're losing you.
Losing us?
Yeah, you're our only writing resource.
Oh, nonsense. You've learned more than that in the last year.
Come on, Jenny. I'm a salesman. Fred's an artist, and neither one of us is a writer.
Oh, come on, calm down. Now, writing isn't something that you are any more than sales or art are something that you are. Writing is something you do. It's a process.
Come on, fellas. You got along before we came here. You've been around us and around this project long enough for some of it to have rubbed off.
And what about the proposals and reports and personal notes we helped you write?
Well, that was one thing. This is something else. This is a new report.
Cassie, do you see why I want this program to dwell on transferring writing skills from this course to other writing situations?
I'm beginning to. Fred, Kurt, when you came to us for help in the beginning, what's the first thing we asked you to consider for any piece of writing?
Well, you asked us to stop and look at why we were doing the writing.
Right.
And then, what do you consider next?
I guess you mean who's going to read it?
Sure, because if I'm designing graphics to teach elementary kids about farm animals, I'd do it differently from designing a set for the series that you're writing.
Right. So why don't you go back to your office, write your report and your memo, come back in about 10 minutes, and we'll check it for spelling and punctuation.
Okay, let's go, Fred. Come on. Hey, wait a minute. Are you putting us on?
I don't know, am I?
10 minutes? Well, what about the pre-writing? That takes time, too. And then there's drafts and revisions, sometimes more than one.
Well, where have I heard that before, huh? But Fred, I didn't know you were so knowledgeable about the writing process.
So you see, we are not your only writing resource. Your main resource is yourself, your experience and your knowledge.
I get the point. There are certain basic principles that apply in any situation.
Yeah. When I'm assigned a paper for biology class, I'm not allowed to write from a personal perspective, use you and I, but I usually have to follow a definite format. Now, that doesn't mean I can't use things I've learned working in this telecourse.
No, to the contrary.
To the contrary, I can use all that I've learned about audience and purpose and word choices in any situation.
Take your situation. You've got to write proposals, reports, letters. What do you do?
Well, the same sort of things that Cassie does when she's writing her biology paper.
You still need to analyze your audience, determine your purpose, and commit to the process of writing.
Well, I know that too, but is it okay if we feel a little insecure about what we know?
Oh, it's fine as long as you don't let it stop you. Just transfer what you know works to the new problem.
Okay. What do you say, Kurt? We give it our best shot.
Okay. But you know, it's funny.
What's funny?
Well, you are all professional writers, but your work has a definite end. For us non-writers, the need to write goes on forever. What am I laughing at?
I think I'm making steady progress on the concept paper. Don't get me wrong, I agree that we should summarize the topics covered in the telecourse, but I just listed a few of the items I could think of, and I've already got a whole page here.
That's a lot of summary.
That's just my point. As I was looking back over it from my perspective and thinking about beginning writers, I am sure this is too much to summarize.
We've had that problem in every program. There's always so much to say and so little time.
True, but that's not my problem. See, I'm having problems with the whole idea of a summary.
What do you mean, Cassie?
Well, remember our audience. Beginning writers are not at the end of developing their writing process. We are really at the beginning.
What do you mean you're at the beginning?
Still testing me, Norm. It's hard for me to be more specific at this point, but I still identify with beginning writers. And that is not a setup for a joke, Norm.
What, me? Oh, never.
Well, I've learned a lot about writing, what works for me and what doesn't, and I just figure if I've learned that much in several months, there must be a lot more to be learned.
That is just the insight that I knew you would bring to this assignment.
I'll second that. Our telecourse is really kind of an invitation to write, to use your writing skills as lifetime skills.
Well, see, you and Gwen are making me sound like somebody on a TV commercial who just bought the right mouthwash and all of her problems are solved.
No, being a better writer won't help your dingy wax buildup or ring around the collar. But you shouldn't underestimate the value of good writing.
I don't mean to, really, I don't. It's just that I was a person who functioned reasonably well in society, even in college, before being exposed to this writing project.
Exposed to it? You mean submerged in it, don't you?
Yeah. But you know, the worst thing we can do, I can do with this final program is to give the impression to students that once they finish this telecourse that all their writing problems are solved.
Well, of course not, Cassie, but Jenny didn't mean that.
Cassie, we're not getting anywhere trying to figure out what you thought I meant. What do you mean? That's the question.
Well, let me think out loud for a minute. What I've learned about the writing process, I've learned the hard way.
You sure did. But you hung in there.
But remember, I almost didn't. I almost quit the project because the prospect of all that writing really frustrated me.
Deciding to stay was a big hurdle for you.
And that's my point. See, there are lots of hurdles left. Now, I didn't know anything about pre-writing techniques a few months ago, but I learned some and I used them, and they've made a big difference for me. But I'm no expert on pre-writing techniques. I've just barely scratched the surface.
All right, Cassie, now you are in charge of developing this last script. So you decide what you want to write about, and then we'll look at what you come up with.
Okay, I will.
This seems as if it might be a good moment for me to introduce my contribution to the program, for you to consider, that is, Cassie. And I think it'll fit in very well with your insight.
What's that?
The idea that this last program in the telecourse should really be a beginning and not an end of writing for students.
Is your contribution an interview?
Yes, Dr. Stephen Whitty, a researcher who has evaluated writing programs all over the country. Here he talks about beginning writers, how they make certain kinds of progress that are really hard to evaluate. Would you mind?
Yeah.
Thank you.
In the work that we've been doing on evaluating writing programs, we've identified 3 areas in which change can occur. And by change, I mean positive change, usually. We think that composition courses can affect certainly the products that students write. We think also that composition courses can affect the processes that students use as they write. And we also think that composition courses can affect the attitudes that students have toward writing as a process and toward the products that they produce. And what the conclusion that we've come to is that very often composition courses can change the attitudes that students have, and they can also change the way students compose to without ever changing the products within, say, a semester's time to any measurable or significant degree. But our assumption is that by changing attitudes, for example, or by changing processes, we're putting students in a better position to learn to produce better products at a later time. Most of the research suggests that any improvement in writing products comes about, and I think I'm using Kellogg Hunt's term here, with glacial slowness. And so that I think that when we talk about the effects of writing instruction on students, we have to look at other things besides simply products.
That's it. Thank you, Norm.
You know, he's right. Looking back over my own experiences with this project, I can see a lot of what I've learned about writing can't possibly be measured by a test.
What do you mean, Cassie?
Well, I remember a conversation I had with Fred a couple of months ago. He was having difficulty coming up with a topic for a talk he was to give to a foster parent group.
Oh, yes.
Well, Fred was stuck and I wanted to help him. Well, there I was, feeling clever and cocky, telling Fred what to do with knowledge I had just acquired myself earlier that day. I was full of new ideas and new words. But now that I look back at it, I didn't really understand them fully the way I do now.
I think that kind of maturing is just what Dr. Whitty was talking about. Now, do you think that his interview would fit into the program you're developing?
Sure.
And you'll think the same thing about the piece I put together on word processors for the program.
Word processors? Why in this program?
Oh, there are several good reasons. Word processing is a major leap. It's a whole new technology that affects the writing process.
Well, the typewriter was a new technology once, too. I don't understand.
Well, typewriters increased the speed of writing, but it didn't change the process. Word processors increase the speed, too, in most cases, but more important, they have the ability to change the writing process.
And they're going to be a big part of our future, too. Word processors in the office, personal computers at home. It's something I think we ought to look at.
Another reason, Gwen, is you said you wanted the focus of this program to be on transferring writing skills from this course to others.
Yes, certainly.
Well, the skills that the students have learned from about the writing process will transfer beautifully to word processing.
Because it's so easy to revise on a word processor?
Sure. And let's take a look at this piece.
Okay.
What is a word processor? A system of electronic components designed to produce typed documents. What makes it so different from a typewriter? The leap forward is that a word processor can remember what was typed the first time. That means revisions can be made without retyping the entire piece of writing. A word processor can make many kinds of revisions. With it, a writer can add words or paragraphs, correct typographical errors, and delete words or sections of text anywhere in the document. Also, a writer can add whole pages of information in the middle of a piece of writing. A writer can rearrange or move paragraphs or sections of text from one place to another in the same document. A section of text can be copied from one text and used to create another document. Or a writer can even duplicate an entire document. Most word processing systems include the following components: a keyboard, a display, an electronics module, a printer, and a diskette unit. How do word processors affect the writing process? And how can the skills obtained in a beginning composition course be applied to word processing? The major effect a word processor has on the writing process is revealed in the reason it was invented. It makes revising a piece of writing faster and easier. The major physical objections to revising are eliminated.
It may be that in the future a lot more writing is going to be done on word processing machines, on machines that will make it possible to correct errors and revise without the whole laborious process of recopying the next draft, so that in effect the mechanics of writing may start to become fun, and the processes of revision will become a lot easier, and people will be more willing to do fairly complex revisions, more willing to do them than they sometimes are now.
You can edit. I would say it cuts down at least 50% of your time of what you're doing. It's very easy to change, edit, move things around.
And that is a tremendous, tremendous help because, as you know, writing is basically rewriting. And with the word processor, rewriting is very, very simple. And you don't wind up with a piece of smudged typing paper that you've crossed things out and everything else, because when you make a change in the word processor, there is no trace of the original version except where you've kept it safely someplace else, and you can call it back up. You can do anything with it electronically, and once it's done, the mine prints it out at 500 words a minute, and I print out the work at the end of every day and double space it so I can work on it with a pencil, and then I go back in and call it up the next day and make the changes I penciled in. Then I print it out single spaced at 500 words a minute, and it's ready to go.
Oh, I think I look on it now as not as much of a dreary job to have to handle in editing. It's so easy that I gladly do it now, where before, if you have to take a 2-page letter and retype the whole thing, if you compare that to taking a 2-page letter and moving 2 words around and having it done in 20 seconds, you look upon it as something you'd rather do.
And I suppose another way that has changed the way I write is that it's speeded me up considerably, in part because I don't have to worry about getting things typed or written in longhand, and then going back and revising revising on a text that I know is going to be a lot of trouble to reproduce in a form that somebody else could read. Now, this way, I get a hard copy off the line printer, and then I make my notations on the copy, and then I go back and edit the text, and a couple of hours later at the most, I have a new text which incorporates all of the revisions, and I don't have to worry about secretaries or typing the thing or taking time to type a new copy for myself. It's just done.
Writing is much more of a pleasure now. It's easier to create things, both my own work, other people's. I find now that the people I work for, I can offer them some suggestions in editing. It gives me a little more time to read over and think about what we're doing in the corporation.
For people who think writing is some kind of magic which appears the first time, needing no corrections, a word processor wouldn't be much help. But to real writers, people who have to revise and rewrite and work on their writing, a word processor makes writing less of a chore and more of a challenge. The technology allows the writer to ask, how good can this piece of writing be, instead of, what is the minimum number of changes I have to make?
Good thing I'd left some time for a mini-doc in my planning for the script. And that's a good example of transferring skills, Norm.
I thought so.
And writers will still need to know what needs revising and how to do it. And they can transfer what they've learned in this course to their work with a word processor.
Or a home computer.
Right. What say we get back to our writing? So anyway, this is what I've come up with. This last show is not really the end, but the beginning.
Yeah, I like that. It's sort of like the telecourse is a pre-writing course for the rest of your life. Can you believe we've come to the last program in the series?
I can't believe I'm going to have to clean up this desk. Gwen, you're going to be here for a few more months, aren't you?
Yes, working on the study guide and finishing the written materials. What about you, Norm? Off to write the great American novel?
Well, I still want to do that, of course, but I've kind of decided to look in a new direction for a few years.
A new direction?
Yeah, seeing the difference that writing can make for people has inspired me to investigate,
Come on, Norm. Where are you planning to bestow your talents?
Well, I'm thinking of looking into teaching, but part-time at first, huh? Hey, how's it going, guys? Hey, how goes the writing?
Well, it's a challenge.
It certainly is, but I think we're up to it, right?
Right.
I'm sure you are. Now, Kurt, Fred, you have both been very special to all of us, so we would like to give you a little present for farewell.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
This is really.
Oh, it's a book. It's a writer's handbook.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
All our students are told to keep their grammar and usage handbooks, so we thought you should have one for all your efforts.
And to help you with your writing.
After all, you won't be able to run down to the writer's office when you have a problem anymore.
Well, tell you, whenever I use this book to solve a writing problem, I'll think of you guys.
Yeah. Well, we got to run. Thanks for the books.
Believe me, you'll be glad to have that handbook.
Yeah, it would be nice to talk with you guys, but we do have one more program to write.
You know how it is. The writing's never done.
Yeah, so it's time to begin.